welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now here's the show. Hey there, and welcome back to Elements of Ayurveda. This is Colette, and today's show is all about allergies. And as you can hear from my voice, I definitely have a little bit of allergy reaction going on. I normally don't suffer from allergies, but this year in the south of France, it's been very dry. We've had hardly any rain. And last week we had these huge Mistral winds, which are the winds that come down from the Alps, and they shook everything up, including all the pollen from the trees, and there was clouds of yellow pollen. It was amazing to see, and actually I have some photos. I'll put a photo up in the podcast Facebook group because it was crazy to see these clouds of yellow pollen. So many of us here in the south of France are suffering from allergies just because of the sheer amount of pollen in the air. Thankfully, my allergies aren't too severe. It's just I can feel it a little bit in my throat, just like a coating. But I'm going to talk about allergies today because I know a lot of people are suffering from allergies right now. I did a poll in the podcast Facebook group, and I've heard from some people who are having some pretty severe allergic reactions. So this is what I want to discuss today, given that it's timely with spring. Maybe, you're in an area that hasn't quite started the melting process of the snow, but maybe in the next few weeks you might be feeling more allergies going forward. Or maybe you're not allergic to pollen. Maybe it's to dust or pet dander or food, and that can be an allergy that could be acquired throughout your life. You may become more sensitive to things. So this is what we're going to discuss today in detail, and I'm definitely going to give you some tips and guidelines to help you so that you can alleviate this suffering. So let's first of all look at what is an allergy? Well, an allergy is when the immune system responds to a certain trigger, and that will be something in the environment. Now, these triggers are known as allergens, and I mentioned some of them earlier. It could be found in dust mites, with the pets and pet dander, pollen, insects. It could be allergy due to molds, to medicines, and foods. And for the foods that people react most commonly with are peanuts, seafood, dairy products, and eggs. Now, many of these substances are harmless for most people. However, for the person whose immune system responds, it results in many symptoms, which are normally dosha specific, and we'll talk about that later. So the allergic reaction manifests differently for each dosha. Now, there are two types of allergic reactions according to Ayurveda. The first type is a genetic or inherited tendency to develop allergic diseases. When people with genetic allergies are exposed to allergens, they can develop an immune reaction that leads to allergic inflammation. And this can cause redness and swelling. And some of the symptoms could be in the nose and or the eyes, like hay fever, allergic rhinitis or conjunctivitis. On the skin, it could be eczema or hives. And in the lungs, it could be something as severe as asthma. Now, in order to treat something like a genetic or inherited allergy, I really advise you to go see a professional practitioner. And if you go to see an Ayurvedic practitioner, they will look at your history, but also your family history. And this needs more of a detailed, individualized, focused diagnosis. And that Ayurvedic practitioner will then treat you with herbs and look at your food and lifestyle and meet your specific needs. So for anybody with a genetic allergy, I really recommend that you seek out a professional to deal with one-on-one. But today we're going to talk about the other type of allergy, which is seasonal, or the allergies that are acquired throughout your life, a sensitivity that a person has started to experience later in life. So this is what I want to look at today. So why do some people suffer from allergies and others don't? Well, Ayurveda teaches us that is due to the buildup of ama, or toxins, in our body. Ama is essentially undigested food due to impaired agni or digestive fire. So it's due to a digestive fire that's not working properly. Now, when our digestive fire becomes impaired, whether that's due to poor digestion, due to diet or an unhealthy lifestyle or stress or climate, whatever it's due to, the metabolism is affected. And so too is the body's immunity and resistance to illness. So this buildup of ama is due to an impaired digestive fire or agni, which can affect the body's immunity. And if you think of the digestive fire like a gas flame, so if your digestive fire is low, the food is sitting there on that flame uncooked, and it's hardly cooking at all, so it's creating toxins. And this could be likened to something like a digestive fire of a person with a high Kapha constitution. It's a slow, sluggish digestion that can typically be the norm. So this would be like a Kapha, agni, or digestive fire. Now, if that gas flame is irregular, meaning that it's flickering from high to low, then the food sitting on that gas flame is not cooking through completely. And that irregular gas flame is causing what we would liken to a vata agni, a vata digestive fire, where sometimes it's strong, sometimes it's slow, but there's no even cooking. So therefore you can't rely on it, and sometimes you digest something well and other times not, and it can create bloating and gas, and the end result is toxins as well. Now, if you think of the fire that's really high, really strong, and this would be likened to a pitta agni or pitta digestive fire, then the food at the bottom of that saucepan will become burned. And when our digestive fire is overactive like this, it actually burns ama away. And particularly on the tongue, there may be no ama, and it affects the digestive process as well, and will result in actual poor nutritional absorption and lowers the body's immunity too. So we don't want our digestive fire too low, we don't want it too high, and we don't want it irregular. We want a steady, good, efficient digestive fire. Now, when the imbalanced body, and again, that imbalance could be from vata, pitta, or kapha, but when the imbalanced body is unable to completely digest or absorb food, it results in the accumulation of ama, or toxins in the body. Other factors that can affect our immunity are our emotions. And this is really interesting, these teachings from Ayurveda, to say that emotions, and particularly emotions that are undigested or repressed, can affect our allergic reaction as well. For example, anger that's not dealt with can change the environment or the flora of the small intestine and the gallbladder, and it can really aggravate pitta. And this can result in inflammation in the mucous membranes of the stomach and the small intestines. And emotions like fear and anxiety can change the environment or the flora of the large intestine, which can result in trapped gas, causing pain and bloating. So when we have emotions that we ignore or repress or push down, it creates an imbalance of the vata dosha. And this, of course, we know that when Vata now is imbalanced, it will result in an irregular digestive fire or agni. It will result in that flickering glass flame, going, sometimes burning high, sometimes going low, but it's flickering all the time. It's not consistent. And therefore, this can cause an abnormal immune reaction, which can result in allergies. So therefore, it's really important for us and for our health to acknowledge our emotions. And this is why Ayurveda talks about holistic health. We can't just talk about our food or our lifestyle. We have to look at what's going on in every aspect of our life. So acknowledging our emotions, feeling them, being with them, allowing them to move through us. Because if we repress emotions, it will cause disturbances in the body and in the mind. And, the emotions, of course, will probably start in the mind and eventually affect the functioning of the body. And this, again, is why Ayurveda looks at the full picture of your life. So now let's talk about dosha-specific allergies and how the allergies manifest in each dosha. Ayurveda teaches us that each dosha has a specific reaction to allergens. And normally what will happen is a person with a high Kapha constitution will experience Kapha-type allergic reactions. However, if this Kapha person, a person with a high Kapha constitution, has a Vata imbalance, then they will experience Vata-type allergies. So let's go through each of these doshic type of allergic reactions. And remember that even though you might have a high Kapha constitution, if you're imbalanced in Pitta or Vata, you will experience those allergic type reactions. So for Vata type allergies, they generally manifest in the stomach and the intestines and may cause bloating, stomach discomfort, excessive gas. There may be burping or gurgling in the stomach and perhaps intestinal colic. So it will increase the air and the movement in the body. And along with that excess movement, there may be some moving pain in the body, like muscle aches and headaches and spasms and tics, maybe sciatica, that nerve pain down the back of the legs, or muscle twitching or joint pain. The breathing will also be affected because remember, Vata is responsible for all movement in the body, and that includes movement through the vocal cords. And the breathing is affected and may cause difficulty breathing, which can lead to wheezing or sneezing, and also dryness in the body. The body may become very dry, the throat, the tongue, the eyes, the intestines, leading to constipation. And there also may be a ringing in the ears, like a tinnitus, and of course problems sleeping, which, as we know with Vata, there's a tendency towards having problems sleeping due to mind spinning or insomnia as well. So they are some of the Vata type allergies, and these could be allergic reactions not only to seasonal, but also, like I said, to sensitivities that you acquired throughout your life, whether it's to pets or dust or medicines or foods and so on. Now, Pitta type allergies usually show up on the skin, and this is especially if the person has come into contact with the allergen. And this can cause the skin to be itchy, hot, irritated. Anything Pitta-like is going to be really angry looking, really red and itchy. It may cause a rash or psoriasis or allergic dermatitis or even eczema. Also, it will affect the eyes. The eyes are the organ of Pitta, and there may be bloodshot, burning or itchy eyes. And there may be some sharp pains here, which could result in like headaches or migraines. There may be also, of course, inflammation of the airways, and this could lead to sinusitis or bronchitis. Anything itis is inflammation, and we know that Pitta imbalances have a tendency towards inflammation in the body. It can also cause heat in the digestive tract, and that could lead to heartburn or acid reflux or just a general overheating in the body. You may get a fever as well. Now, Kapha type allergies, they show up as that heavy, sluggish stagnation of when Kapha is out of balance. So this could be colds and congestion, sinus problems, a runny nose, watery eyes, coughs, feeling lethargic and heavy, just no get up and go, just exhausted with slow digestion, perhaps water retention as well, and feeling foggy in the mind, feeling like you don't have any clarity. Now, Kapha type allergies are experienced, of course, at this time of year as we move from winter into spring. Now, while it depends on where in the world you live, the normal spring conditions in the environment are damp and wet. Maybe you have snow melting or just a lot of rain, but the earth is saturated. And these conditions in the environment cause Kapha energy to rise in our body. So the environment, the macrocosm, affects the microcosm, our body. Therefore, particularly for those people with a high Kapha constitution, or a Kapha imbalance, the Kapha qualities of moist, heavy, cold, liquid, static, and stagnation may rise in the body as well. So this is what happened to me recently, because I hit a Kapha constitution. I just traveled to Ireland for some time with my family, had a great time there. But, the weather is a little cooler and it's a little bit more damp. We've definitely had a couple of misty days, but some sunny days too, which I'm glad to report. But also that, we went away on a trip. We were eating out in restaurants and later nights, and just my schedule was off, which happens when you're on vacation, and then add in some flights, and I was around quite a few sick people. And then when I came back to France, I was still fine, but these pollen clouds came up. So I think my Kapha was definitely up from my trip to Ireland, and it has resulted, thankfully, in not too severe a sinus reaction, but I definitely feel my sinuses and definitely feel like that coating, on the throat. So it's a little bit of Kapha, maybe a little bit of a pitta imbalance too, with a scratchy throat going on as well. But I have been using my tips from Ayurveda to help me through this, and I'm definitely going to give you some tips today. And don't worry about trying to memorize them or write them down, because I have a download for you that I'm going to put a link to in the show notes with all these tips on what you should focus on and what you should avoid during allergy season, during springtime. You can also check that out on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/freebies, and then you'll find it under episode number 72. Okay, so what happens? We're talking about the pollen and all the pollen that is released at this time of the year. Now, pollen itself is not the issue. However, when the pollen is inhaled by a person who has a lot of ama in their body, it can irritate the mucous membrane and cause an immune reaction like hay fever, like congestion or colds or cough or sinus infection, and even, in severe cases, some asthma. If the origin, however, of the allergy is due to a repressed emotion, the allergy will not be cured by an antihistamine or medication. In fact, over-the-counter medications for allergies is just really covering up the symptoms. It's not getting to the root cause. And this is where Ayurveda recommends a deep cellular cleanse that will not only eliminate the physical toxins, but these emotional toxins. It will bring up any repressed or emotions stored away in the fat cells that are undigested, and it will bring them up for you to deal with during the time of a cleanse. You'll start to have maybe memories. A lot of people experience memories during cleanses, and I might ask them to journal about them or talk about them. But all these repressed emotions can affect your immunity, as we talked about earlier. So in order to treat allergies, it's important to determine whether it's Vata, Pitta, or Kapha that's aggravated. And when we do seasonal cleanses, and I have one coming up March 29th, so very soon. And when I do a cleanse, of course, I have an individual online consult with each person. It's 90 minutes long. So we really go in, have an in-depth chat. And then I not only determine a person's birth constitution, but also see what their current imbalance is, because depending on whether you can see the symptoms for the Vata, Pitta and Kapha are very different, then we will treat those allergies and tailor the cleanse specifically to that person for their needs. So Ayurveda, like I said, recommends and really encourages seasonal cleanses for this reason. We do one at springtime, and then we also do one at the end of summer, transitioning into fall. And you know that this is the time of year when everybody is suffering from coughs and congestion. It's the times when, in school, the kids are all sick. So, and this is why, because there can be a buildup of toxins or ama in the body. And particularly during the change of seasons, when we're transitioning from the weather of the previous season of winter into spring, and the weather conditions can go back and forth between seasons for several weeks, leading to really confusion in our digestive system. We don't really know what we want to eat. We don't really want the foods of winter, but we're not yet ready to move into the foods of spring. So this can cause a lot of problems with our digestive fire too. And again, that can lead to ama or buildup in the body. And a cleanse really helps to flush this toxic buildup out of the body and therefore prevent any aggravation as we transition into the new season. Now, cleanse is also important to clear the channels of the body, or what we call the shrotas in Ayurveda. These channels are responsible for transporting the nutrient fluid to the cells and tissues, and also removing the waste. But if these channels are blocked, then the immune system is slowed down also. So a spring cleanse is really essential for those who are prone to seasonal allergies. I know I am going to be starting mine ASAP. I generally like to do my cleanse before I take the group through it, because I want to be focused and clear and feeling good while I'm supporting everybody else in the group going through the cleanse. So I'll start mine very soon, and then I'll be ready to support all of you going through it. So for those with allergies, I highly recommend a cleanse, or people who have acquired allergies in their lifetime to certain foods or products or animals. Then this is something that can really reset your body and help prevent you from suffering those allergies in the future, because it's really uncomfortable. It really affects your life when you're suffering from allergies. So we need to release, the buildup of toxins from winter, clear the channels of the body, reset the digestive fire. And when the digestive fire is working well, then it can remove the allergens efficiently from the body and can adjust easily to the change in the seasons. So like I said, the group cleanse is starting March 29th. That only gives a short period of time from now for a 90-minute online consult with me, so I can tailor the cleanse to you. So if you're interested in joining, click on the link in the show notes or go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/group cleanse, and you can register there, and then I will be in touch to set up your 90-minute consult. So I'd love to support you on your healing journey. And it's not only about cleansing the body, it's really about an educational journey on your unique mind-body type too. So you learn a lot about yourself for going forward. And really, I want to empower you and give you the confidence to take care of yourself. So check out that link. Come join us so that you can enter spring feeling light and clear, energetic, and full of vitality. So as I promised, besides from recommending the cleanse, I am going to give you some tips and guidelines today. And just a reminder that I have that download in the show notes of all these tips, so you don't have to worry about writing them down. As we enter the spring season, I talked about the qualities of the spring already, the qualities of the Kapha dosha, because spring season is Kapha season. When the Kapha energy rises, is moist and cold and heavy and static, soft and liquid. So they're the qualities of Kapha. And we want to bring in the opposite qualities to these. So instead of the cold, we want warm. Instead of moist, we want to dry. Instead of like static, heavy foods, we want lighter foods. And we want to make sure that we're stoking that digestive fire, because it can become very sluggish and it can become very low due to these rise in these Kapha qualities. So what we want to do is eat warm, easy digestible foods, particularly as we transition through the seasons. And we want to use foods that are seasonal. Nature gives us what we need. So going to your local farmer's market, seeing what's in season and cooking that up with some warm digestive spices like fresh ginger, like black pepper, these will really aid in your digestion. Turmeric is also another great spice because it's astringent and it will dry out that excess Kapha moisture. Now, we also want to move more at this time of year, circulating the blood in the body. And when we circulate the blood, obviously the pump of the heart is moving the blood around the body, but this will also move the lymph. The lymph doesn't have a pump like the heart, so it's dependent on the circulatory system to move it. So that's why we need movement daily. It's so important. Now, I go into detail on preventing spring sickness in episode number 21, and I talk all about specifically about Kapha season. But today I'm going to give you some tips to really help prevent those allergies from manifesting in your body. So, of course, you want to make sure that you're supporting your body with also your daily self-care practices. They're called dinacharya in Ayurveda. And if you're unsure what I'm talking about, I did a full podcast episode on these dinacharya or daily self-care practices. That's episode number 8, which is called Ayurveda and the Circadian Rhythms. And I talk in detail about syncing your self-care practices with this 24-hour biological clock. I also have an online course, which is called the Daily Habits for a Holistic Health course, that helps you to implement these holistic habits and giving you further education around them. So I'll put that link in the show notes also. Okay, so let's get on to some simple self-care tips to help prevent allergies. Well, one of the biggest things that's really going to help support our immune system during this time is sleep. So my first tip is to get to bed by 10 o'clock. We know that in the circadian rhythms, at 10 o'clock, the pitta energy arises, giving us the illusion of a second wind, but it's not for us. It's for our digesting our food, for detox, for rejuvenation, to restore our body and mind and get us ready for the next day. So being in bed by 10 is really key, supporting your body, giving it the rest it needs in order to restore you for the next day, to give you energy and vitality. Also, eating in alignment with your dosha, really important. It's so important to know your mind-body type. Yes, the dosha quizzes online, I have on my website too. They're great as a stepping stone, but I highly recommend doing a consult. I offer them online where you're talking to an Ayurvedic expert and they can really determine your birth constitution. This is information you'll have for life. And with this information, then you can make the right choices for your food, for your exercise, for your lifestyle. Really help to empower you to make your own decisions. So important during this time is to eat in alignment with your dosha and eat warm, like I said, easy digestible foods, freshly cooked, seasonal foods. And, particularly if you're in a cold environment, you definitely want to be eating warm, staying away from salads at this time. Salads for a slow Kapha digestion are just really hard to digest. Digestive fire is already low. Then you're putting this cold food into the body. The body has to heat back up. Then it has to cook the food essentially and then break it down. So it's a lot of work for a slow, sluggish Kapha digestion. So stick to those warm foods that will help you out. Also adding digestive spices to your food. I talked about fresh ginger and black pepper earlier. Cumin is another great warming one. Cinnamon as well is great for warming the body. It also transports the heat to the extremities if you have a tendency towards cold hands, cold feet. And fennel is a great digestive spice as well. Having a good routine with your meals. This is really important. So try to keep your meal times consistent. Eating your main meal, the heaviest meal in the middle of the day. And by heaviest, I mean having your grains or having your protein in the middle of the day. And then have a light supper. So having something like a soup in the evening that's lighter. And then stopping eating by 7 p.m. so that you have 3 hours to digest before bed at 10. Also, you want to stay well hydrated. Really important this time of year. You know, you might have the heat on in the house and everything gets really dry when the heat's on. You know, the inside lining of our nose gets dry, our skin gets dry. So it's really important to keep sipping on warm liquids throughout the day. Just hot water alone is fantastic for stimulating the digestive fire, or herbal teas. So for a Kapha person, I would recommend turmeric because of its astringent value. You want to draw out that excess water that you tend to carry in the body. You could have a turmeric and ginger tea, or you could make a golden milk, obviously not with dairy. Dairy is very mucus forming. So you could have something like a rice milk or some other nut or seed milk, and making up some golden milk. That would be really great for you. For Pitta, like licorice tea is good as long as you don't have high blood pressure, right? Because licorice tends to raise blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, you have to be very careful with licorice. But licorice is also an anti-inflammatory and an expectorant. So, and it's sweet as well, which is calming for Pitta. So this is a good one. And for Vata, I highly recommend a fresh ginger tea or a chai tea, obviously not caffeinated because the caffeine can give you that wired feeling, but an uncaffeinated chai tea, because all those spices in the chai will really stimulate your digestive fire. Now, we also want to keep stress at a minimum. And we know that stress can suppress the immune system. So practicing things like yoga and meditation, really important. Highly recommend meditation every day. We can all find 5 to 10 minutes. First thing in the morning, set your alarm clock a little earlier and just do it first thing before you're interrupted. You could also add some breath work into your day. Some great breath work if you're suffering from allergies is alternate nostril breathing. And that is really great for wheezing, any wheezing you have, or sneezing. And the Brastrika or bellows breath is really good for any of the Kapha type allergies of congestion. Now, I do have on my freebies page on my website a whole video tutorial of pranayama or breath work, and you can find those two on there. So check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. Of course, we recommend yoga as well. Yoga not only gets the body moving, and I would recommend, during Kapha season, and particularly as you transition, a gentle flow yoga class, getting the blood moving around the body. And it's also for its relaxation benefits. Moving daily, getting out for a walk, at least about 30-minute walk, again, to get that blood flowing, really important. We don't want that blood and lymph to be stagnant. That's when ama can form, and when our immune system can really become suppressed. So we want to make sure you're moving daily. If that means getting out at lunchtime, if you don't have time in the morning or evening, or taking meetings and walking, that's a great way to do that as well. Of course, very important to avoid the allergen. That makes sense, right? If you have a certain food or animal or product, you just avoid it. However, unfortunately, we can't avoid pollen or airborne allergens. But what we can do is clean our sinuses and protect them from these allergens. So cleaning your sinuses with a neti pot daily. The neti pot is just a little jug that you put a little bit of a saline solution in. You can take like 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, mix it up with some tepid water, and then you turn your head to the side, you pour the liquid in one nostril, it should flow out the other, and then you do the opposite side. And for some people, especially if you have a deviated septum, this may be a little bit uncomfortable. So in that case, just go to the pharmacy and buy a saline spray, one of those little pump bottles, and just make sure it's just a natural saline spray. Some of them have essential oils, which is fine, but the neti pot or the saline spray will help to remove any allergens trapped in the sinuses. And then once you've done that, before you go out and about in your day, line the inside of your nostrils with some oil. You could take some coconut oil or sesame oil or any, good quality oil you have. Hopefully it's cold pressed. You don't want to put a refined oil in your nose, but, an unrefined cold pressed oil. Just take a little bit on your little finger and then just line the inside of your nostrils. And that can trap any airborne allergies. Of course, in Ayurveda, we do nasya oil therapy. This is something you could do yourself. It's just literally dropping some oil into your nose, and this is great as well. I know Banyan has a great product, a herbalized nasya oil that's sesame oil based, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes if you're interested in purchasing that. And that's literally just dropping some oil. It has the same effect as lining your nostrils as well, but it has the benefit of the different herbs. So there are some of the things you want to focus on during allergy season. Now, here is a list of what to avoid, and particularly what to avoid to prevent the buildup of kapha in the body, which again can affect the immune system and lead to ama. So you want to avoid cold, raw, or oily foods. You want to avoid heavy, rich, creamy comfort foods. Definitely want to avoid any late night snacking that's going to make you more sluggish and heavy. Want to avoid any dairy at this time that forms mucus, and it's very hard for the body to digest at any time of the year. Also want to avoid bananas. Bananas can be quite mucus forming, so I would say avoid them right now. And not to avoid them completely, but just at the moment, the bananas tend to be a little bit more heavier and stodgier, and they can form a lot of mucus in the body as well. Avoiding ice drinks or cold drinks, because that will just slow down the digestive fire, which is already affected as we transition through the season. Avoiding junk and processed foods, and avoiding poor food combinations. And I cover a lot of this in episode number 26, What Do I Eat? So if you want to know all about those food combos that Ayurveda says are a no-no, check out number 26. But some simple tips I could give you on poor food combos today would be to eat fruit alone, right? Eating fruit on its own, especially if it's a fruit with a high water content, because it digests at a different rate than other foods. So making sure you at least have an hour or two before or after your meal. But also one thing I would do at this time of year is, just using local fruit or what's available locally or what's in season at least. And one fruit that's in season right now is apples and pears. And these are great because they're astringent. So stewing up some apples with a little bit of ghee that I talked about in the last episode and all its benefits, and a little bit of cinnamon for that warming spice, can be a wonderful snack or breakfast at this time of year. So I do recommend at this time of year cooking the fruit, particularly if you're having apples, because again, that raw fruit can be hard for your body to digest. So stewed apples is a great one. Also avoid sleeping or napping in the middle of the day, because when you nap, all the systems of the body slow down, particularly digestion, and any food that you have sitting there is going to be undigested. So if you're taking a nap after lunch, you're going to wake up feeling like the food is caught in your throat almost, because it's just the digestion slowed down while you were sleeping, and it can create toxins in the body. So avoid napping in the middle of the day. Instead, do some of that Brastrika breath work, that bellows breath, to really energize you. And again, that link is in the show notes here. Also avoiding any big changes in temperature. So you don't want to keep your apartment or house very warm and then go out into these really frigid conditions. Try to keep it where, maybe you mean to wear a few layers, but you don't want this huge change in temperature, because that can really affect the immune system also. And also, this is particularly for Vatas, make sure, and for everybody really, not to expose your throat to the cold, to the high winds. So wear a scarf, keep a scarf with you. Maybe you want to cover your ears with a scarf as well. But making sure that if you live in an area with high winds, that you're not exposing your throat to that, and keep your neck and head covered. So there you go. I hope you found those tips helpful. Like I said, I've created a download for you with all these tips written out. So you can just go to elementshealingandwellbeing.com/freebies, look for episode number 72, or just click on the link in the show notes and I have that link there for you and you can print it out and have it on hand. So I'm just going to leave you today with a reminder that I highly recommend supporting your health and well-being with a spring cleanse. It's really something valuable to invest in. And I know for a lot of us, you're thinking of where that money could be invested in other places, but it really is, you know, if you're a mom, you're the hub of the family and you can't afford to get sick. And also that, you know, if you're not feeling well, that it affects everything else in your life. So I highly recommend investing in a spring cleanse so that you can experience how your body feels when it's cleansed. And this can be really wonderful to feel that sense of balance, to feel that sense that your body's working efficiently, you're digesting well, there's no excessive gas or bloating, there's no constipation, there's no diarrhea, there's no pains or headaches in the body, there's no PMS symptoms, and your mind is feeling clear and you feel focused and you know where you're going. So this is what I want for people. I want people to experience that sense of balance in their body and feel what it really is like to feel like you're thriving. So I would love for you to come join me. Like I said, the cleanse starts March 29th. You can register on the website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/group cleanse. Once you register, I will be in touch to set up your private online 90-minute consultation where we can have a good chit chat and I will, address your current situation, will determine your birth constitution, and I'll tailor this all-natural whole food cleanse to you. So if you're ready to move forward into spring feeling really full of vitality, then come join us on this journey to health and really understanding your mind-body type. Okay, and then another reminder is that I have a retreat coming up in the south of France, a yoga and Ayurveda retreat, October 11th through 13th. So check that out. I would love to have you here in the little village of Villefranche, just outside Nice in the south of France. I also set up a Patreon page because people are asking how they can support the podcast. So if you're interested in becoming a patron of the podcast, please check out my Patreon page and I'll put a link here in the show notes. And there's a couple of different tiers that you can get involved in there. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and rate and review it so we can help others find the show. And I always appreciate you and I appreciate your support. And I love hearing from you in the Elements of Ayurveda podcast group, the Facebook group. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. Take good care of yourself, be well, and ciao for now.